My name is Kai Zimmerman, and today we're going to be talking about whether or not social media has an effect on our brains. Firstly, what does social media do to your brain? And then the part of the brain that controls our reactions on social media is part of the old brain. It is called the ventral tegmental area, or the VTA. And the VTA, since it's part of that old brain and it's less developed, it can only read and react to situations. And the VTA treats threats on social media similar to the way that it would treat a physical threat with our fight or flight response. Now, neuroscientist Billy Gordon states that there's no doubt that technology will eventually surpass our mental capabilities, meaning that we're going to become so advanced that our VTA simply won't be able to handle what's coming and what's going on social media. The VTA reacts based out of the natural human fear of being left out. And when threats are perceived, our stress is actually raised. And this increased stress can lead to a variety of issues, including insulin resistance, diabetes, and obesity. And there are a lot of stressors on social media, but here are four of the main stressors: the highlight reel, social currency, FOMO, and online harassment. The first one being the highlight reel. And that's what you see when you log on to your Facebook or your Instagram or your Twitter. We're seeing the best 1% of somebody else's lives. And that's all we see. And oftentimes we compare ourselves to them and we judge ourselves on our own shortcomings, which always increases our stress. Next up is social currency. And social currency can be put simply as comparing likes to money. The more likes you get, the higher your social currency, and the lower likes you get, the lower your social currency. And there are correlations between the less likes you get and the lower your self-esteem seems to be when you're in these social media situations. And we are constantly comparing our social wealth to others, regardless of the platform on social media. Next up is FOMO. FOMO, or fear of missing out, is actually a natural response in our brain. And it's a neural response that can actually be attributed to being exiled from a tribe. It's the same brain process and feeling that was felt when people were exiled from tribes way back. And we also see other people's highlight reels and we feel that we aren't doing enough with our lives. And we compare ourselves to them and in turn stress ourselves that way. And lastly, we have online harassment. And 73% of online adults said that they have witnessed online harassment, and 40% of them have said they have experienced it themselves. And the biggest issue here is that social media addiction can cause this to be a repeated action, and that can eventually lead to a lot of bigger issues. Some of those being what we see in the news, those cyberbullying incidents that lead to gun violence or suicide or threats or something along those lines that have just slowly happened over time, those small stressors that have just been repeated and repeated. Now, there is another side of this. Lawrence Steinberg, a professor of psychology at Temple University, has stated that they said it about dime store novels and rock and roll and computer, and young people have survived all of these things, and he's sure that they'll survive smartphones. And he argues that it's perhaps just part of a generational change. He says that brain plasticity during adolescence is heightened, and while maturing, the brain essentially locks in that knowledge. And past generations have seen significant changes, including those dime store novels, those computers, rock and roll, and they have made it through. But the difference is that we are not the same. So does it affect our brains? Yes. The VTA clearly shows us that our brain changes with social media, but the issue is that 50% of teens feel addicted to their phones. And adolescent brains are dealing with social media addiction at a very vulnerable time. This time, heightened plasticity in the brain means that these small issues that are being caused can eventually lead to much bigger mental issues down the line. Those things along the lines of anxiety, depression, and those bigger mental health issues that we don't see every day. So I think it's very important to note that next time you pull up your phone to get on Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, whatever it may be, to think about those slight repercussions that could be coming out of whatever situation you're going to get yourself involved in on your phone. And maybe it's best to just put your phone down next time.